Welcome in to another episode of Betting the Pitch. This is the real underscore G Warner on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you can find it. This is Betting the Pitch number 197. We're going through the top 5 European soccer leagues, trying to find best bets, winners, all the sort of things to put you through and make some money this weekend. As always, going to have an ultimate best bet coming end of show. But of course, want to get through the 5 different leagues. And then also we'll have a promo code at pregame.com if you're interested in becoming a subscriber there, or if you are already, to save some money on the packages that are up. All lines on this podcast are all lines quoted in this podcast, easy for me to say, are courtesy of betonline.ag, my favorite place to get my bets down early. Reduced juice is offered on almost every game you want to bet right up until game time. Please follow the link found in the podcast description to fund your account. And use the promo code GW50 to receive a 50% match bonus up to $1,000. So now that that's out of the way, let's go through and we'll start where the money is, and that is in the English Premier League Saturday action, as we got a couple weeks left of the soccer season. Tottenham hosts Brentford, currently a half a goal favorite. Tottenham are at home with all the juice right now. Bet online over under is 2 3/4, juiced to the under. Really two teams that, I mean, to me, there's a lot more to play for in the Tottenham side, though they're kind of on a third manager of the season, if you count interims, and are kind of lost a little bit at this point in the season. Brentford, on the other hand, are dealing with the suspension of Ivan Toney, which is a big deal, and really impacts their offense quite a bit, though it didn't look so bad in their last performance, when they won 2-0 against a seemingly distracted West Ham side that was more focused probably on the Europa Conference League. Tottenham are still fighting for European positions. They're 1 point behind Brighton with one more game played, also tied with Aston Villa. Since I think the FA Cup bid for a Europa League place is going to be already used by two sides, both Manchester United and Manchester City, that are in European positions. So there should be still something to play for Tottenham. Problem is they're not very good, and they don't really have a good defense. They do have Harry Kane, who's put up awesome numbers despite really a lackluster team behind him or beside him. It's been a really tough year for Heung-min Son as well. I'm not sure I'm really a believer in Tottenham whatsoever, so I really like the Brentford side getting half a goal. I just think they're really hard to play against. They're intelligent, and they have a much more cohesive and intelligent defense. Tottenham has one of the worst in the world, it feels like, at this point. They make some of the worst mistakes out there. So not really a lean on the total, but I do like Brentford getting a half of a goal. Bournemouth and hosts Manchester United. Currently Bournemouth a 1 1/4 goal underdog at home, with all the juice over under is 3, juice to the over. Manchester United currently on 66 points. They are in the last Champions League position. They're 1 point ahead of Liverpool, but they have played one more match. That is good news. I think from where I sit with this one, Bournemouth look like they're pretty much out of gas, or didn't really care so much once they reached safety in their last match, and that makes me feel like they will feel the same way today. Or in this matchup on Saturday, and I don't really feel like that's an area I want to get in with, because Bournemouth are going to, at least their normal setup is to play defensively and to try to keep you from scoring. They have real set piece problems. So I think I'm going to try to look away from teams that are on the so-called beach, more worried about their sunbeds in Ibiza this summer than really fighting for 90 minutes against a better side. Liverpool then hosts Aston Villa, probably the game of the weekend. Big matchup, especially because Liverpool are 1 point behind in Champions League race, and then Villa are tied with Tottenham for what looks like the last European position, at least from what I see right now. And currently Liverpool a 1 1/4 goal favorite at home, with all the juice in Aston Villa. On the road, over under is 3, juice to the over. And I think I'm most interested in Villa as a side here. Certainly there is, Liverpool are not playing any defense, it seems. They haven't really all season, but I think fully embraced that they're just going to try to outscore you. I don't really like that from a soccer perspective, because I feel like it's much easier to concede than it is to score. Aston Villa with Unai Emery, they've put out he's done a really great job in the past of being a really defensive side. I don't know that he really has that type of defense in this side right now. Maybe not until he gets some injured players back, like the Sevilla signing from last year, whose name is escaping me live, unfortunately, but Diego Carlos, there we go. And I feel like the Liverpool side, I mean, they want to win this match, but a single goal victory is enough for them. They're celebrating on the final whistle. And I don't know that it'll come that easily. I feel like, of course, at Anfield, it's a tough place to play. But I just feel like Liverpool have been bailed out so much by Alisson this year, really because their defense is so poor. I don't know that I can play it under 3 here. I like that you get the push on the 3-goal result, but I think I'm more interested in Aston Villa maybe losing 2-1 in that type of situation, winning half a bet on the side, as opposed to seeing what could be a really high scoring match that Aston Villa could potentially win on the road and losing the under there. Fulham then hosts Crystal Palace. Currently Fulham a quarter goal favorite. All the juice on Crystal Palace on the road. Over there's 2.5 juice the under. Both these sides are pretty safe. Fulham on 10th position in the table. Have 2 matches left, could kind of snake their way into Europe, but doesn't really seem likely. Whereas Crystal Palace are really just safe. And so this is a match that's really hard to predict what's going to happen here. Palace on the road are a much different side, certainly been playing really well lately. That probably makes me want to put them on my list at least. And I guess I lean to under 2.5 here as well, just because I don't really see a lot of scoring. I feel like both these defenses are far ahead of the offenses. It's just really hard to know who cares and what's going to happen. And lineups will probably dictate that a lot on Saturday morning. Wolves then host Everton, currently a pick 'em right now with more juice, so slightly more on Wolves at home. Over unders 2.25 juice to the over. And this is a big battle at the bottom. Wolves are safe, but Everton are only 1 point ahead of the drop zone, no relegation playoffs. So if you're in the bottom 3, you are gone. Big deal for Everton. They're 1 goal differential point better than Leeds. So this is a big battle for them. They need to certainly outdo what Leeds are doing. And Leeds will host a really weary West Ham this weekend, if I'm not mistaken, or at least they play them. Wolves, not a lot to play for. I mean, besides being in front of their home crowd, I feel like if they're on the road, this would be a fairly easy fade. But I do think Everton and Sean Dyche, they certainly want to go and win 3 points here, but I think they're going to try their best to really get one and secure one. And I think Wolves is their offensive problems have been really severe this season. They're going to have to do a lot of work, I think, in the transfer window. This number also might climb to 2.5, and I just don't see a lot of goals in this one, even from a Wolves side that might not be as involved or emotionally invested as Everton will be. There should be a lot of Everton road supporters there, but ultimately we're more Wolves fans. So I feel like this is an under, if anything. So I like under 2.25 right now. Nottingham Forest then was Arsenal in what should be another big battle at the bottom. Nottingham Forest 3 points ahead of the last relegation position, but certainly not safe just yet. Arsenal 4 points back, really have to win here because they played an additional match in Manchester City, have to win. So they're going to be pushing really hard. Nottingham Forest certainly going to sit back and try to play a defensive brand of football. They're a 1-goal underdog at home. Over under is 3. The juice is split both ways, so not a lot of big interest in the marketplace. And maybe these numbers, because they have so much push, or so many pushes are offered at a +1 and an over under of 3. That's probably where it's gonna stay by the time this kicks off on Saturday. I do feel like Arsenal probably will see more money hit, so I'm a little more interested in waiting on Nottingham Forest if you're interested there. They're going to try their best to make this as hard on Arsenal as possible. Arsenal with Martinelli likely out due to injury. They've done really well defensively on the road, I think, because they play more conservatively, at least with clean sheets and things of that nature. But losing Saliba really, I think, damaged and probably impaired them enough to prevent them from winning the Premier League title. I'm interested in Nottingham Forest getting a goal at home. I don't know that I want to play under there, though. There is a little more safety there than that +1. So I guess I should probably add that to the list. Moving to Sunday, West Ham hosts Leeds. Currently West Ham a pick'em with all the juice right now. Over under is 2.75, juiced heavily to the under. Might see a 2.5 before this kicks off. I'm interested to see if Leeds move to a quarter goal underdog. They're not there yet. I don't really like Leeds, nor do I think they're very good, but I think West Ham are going to be playing a very rotated side, to say the least, after they fought through and got a good result in Holland to make sure that they are moving on to the Europa Conference League final. In terms of safety, West Ham on 37 points, I mean, are basically safe. They just need a single point here to move through. And that would be nice if they drew at home. If you're taking Leeds, getting that quarter of a goal, that's a winning bet. I think Leeds are going to fight really hard. They're sitting in that last relegation spot. 1 point probably would be good for them on the road, but they are probably going to be going all out for a win. I do think that West Ham are going to concede possession because that's really how they want to play. I don't know that I really trust them to attack efficiently. So I like under 2.75 as well there, to be frank. And I think we might see some rotation like Michail Antonio, Jared Bowen. If they're not starting, that does change the offense of West Ham quite a bit. Brighton then hosts Southampton, coming off a pretty disappointing midweek performance against Newcastle, but really tough place to play. And now they host the worst team that's already relegated. Brighton, a 2-goal favorite, over under 3.25, juice the over. A lot of juice on Southampton right now. I don't know what to say for this one. Hard to really predict this one, I got to say, and I'll probably skip. Moving next to Manchester City hosting Chelsea. Man City, a 1.75 goal favorite, with more juice right now. Slightly over under is 3, juice the over. Anytime Chelsea plays, I like under, but not against Man City, especially not on the road. Gigantic number, especially for where these two teams have been in most recently, when Chelsea beat Man City in the Champions League final just 2 short years ago. But I don't want to have anything to do with this one. And then moving to Monday, Newcastle hosts Leicester. Big battle for Newcastle, trying to consolidate and really keep that Champions League position. They've got a pretty big lead, 4 points on Liverpool right now, the same amount of matches played. So a win here would probably clinch them a Champions League position. That'd be huge. They get Leicester. They're 1.5 goal underdog. Leicester are on the road. They are currently second bottom, only 1 point behind 18th position. That's still relegation, 2 points behind safety and 4 points behind the next away from safety. So it looks like they're really just chasing Everton at this point, I think. I don't really trust Leicester. They've been so bad all year. A lot of problems in that club, and they deserve to go down probably. Now they got to go on the road, face Newcastle on short rest, but ultimately that's not a big enough decision for me, or doesn't really change much for me. And I just don't trust the Leicester defense enough to like an under there either. So I don't think I really want to have anything to do with that one at this point. For my best bet, I'm going to go with that Everton under 2.25. I feel like it's just unlikely to see a Wolves team that haven't scored all season and look like they're safe and might not have a lot to play for. Everton probably score a goal and go very defensive. So that's going to be my best bet. And we'll come back to that later and see if it's an ultimate best bet. Moving to Spain, we do have a Friday match. Cadiz hosting Real Valladolid. Valladolid got big time screwed last weekend, but they honestly have been making big mistakes, and it's put them 1 point ahead of the drop zone. There's a big muddle of teams from 37 points on Valencia on 14th, all the way to Getafe and on an 18th automatic relegation position at 34 points, and then Espanyol on 31. I think for Cadiz, they're currently a 1/4 goal favorite right now. They are on 35 points, right tied with Valladolid. I think they have head-to-head, that's why they're ahead of them in the table right now. Over under is 2.5, juice to the under pretty heavily, which is, I think, fairly reasonable, because I don't think there's going to be a lot of goals in this one. It seems like a really conservative match. Valladolid, I think, is potentially on a neutral. They might be a better side, and makes sense. They're rated pretty evenly at a 1/4 goal underdog. Cadiz a little bit more favorite, I think, because of the home venue. Or based the juice right now. But I think under 2.5 is my biggest interest in this one. I do like Valladolid on the road, but I also feel like this could be a Cadiz win and a 1-0 or something like that. Cadiz got screwed last week by an offside call. I mean, I don't want to get started on La Liga refs. I'm going to try to leave that, but essentially the only goal in a match that decided the match was an offside that was given as a corner kick, which should never be given, but soccer refs just can't really help themselves. I'll move on to Saturday. We have Girona hosting Villarreal. Currently, Girona a 1/4 goal underdog at home with almost all the juice. Over under is 2.75, very juice to the over. So we might see a 3 before this kicks off. Villarreal have not been playing any defense lately. They got a big result last week while Sociedad drew. So they're within 5 points with 4 matches to go. La Liga have, I think, a midweek match coming up. So they're going to do their best to try to catch up, because all these other leagues have like 2 matches to go, basically. But Girona's sitting in 7th right now, 1 point ahead of Athletic Club. This is a big deal for them to try to get into a Champions League position, especially, or excuse me, a European position, especially after being a newly promoted. They're 7 points behind Real Betis. So there's a huge gap. And then there's 4 teams all within 2 points of Girona, essentially, behind them trying to chase. So this is a big deal for Girona to try to get a result. I haven't really believed in Villarreal's incredible run of form. I mean, they've been winning so much, won 3 out of the last 4. Girona have also won 3 out of the last 4, though, their last one being a draw. So I'm a believer in Girona. I'm not playing an under there, but I like the home dog a lot on Saturday morning. Athletic Club then hosts Celta de Vigo. Currently, Athletic Club a 3/4 goal favorite at home with all the juice. Over under is 2.5, juiced all the way to the under. So we might see this fall to 2.25. Celta de Vigo have just not been playing very well. They're middle of the table, don't really have a lot that they're playing for. They're 5 points ahead of the highest relegation position. So it's not certainly done for them yet. They still got something to play for. They're not really a great great defense. And I think they do have a suspension in Joseph Aidoo in their back line. That's not great. Athletic Club, though, are not really a goal scoring team. They're a pretty embarrassing performance and have not really looked very good lately. Lost 3 of the last 4, only 1 win in their last 5. I think my biggest interest in this one is the under 2.5. I just don't think that Athletic Club, despite playing in San Mamés, an awesome venue, they don't really play very well there. They don't really score very well. It's hard for them to do that sort of stuff. Unfortunately, Celta is not really a defensive side, but I think when the home team is expected to score goals, and I don't expect them to, I like the safety in that under 2.5. Getafe then hosts Elche, battle at the bottom. Perfect spot for Getafe to face the already relegated side, though Elche have been really kind of stingy. They won 2 of their last 3, which is half their wins in the entire season have come after they got relegated. I mean, it's a bizarre thing once that pressure goes. And they've been saying it all year. They feel like they've just been unlucky. They've been in a lot of matches, which I think is true. The nice part is they're 1-goal underdog, and they get to face Getafe, who have no offense to speak of. Brought in another defensive manager to really try to do the same thing the previous manager was doing. I don't really get that. So I like Elche +1, and I like under 2.25 in that matchup. Almeria then hosts Mallorca. Currently, Almeria a 1/4 goal favorite. A little more juice on the road team Mallorca. Over-unders 2.25, juiced a little bit more to the over. Almeria, they are in the relegation spot on 36 points. Mallorca on 44 are, I think, pretty much safe. So it's a good spot for Almeria, who have had really big defensive issues on the road, but have played pretty well at home. I'm not sure necessarily where I expect this one to go, but Mallorca are a really great defense, and they play really well and make it really hard on teams to score against them, even at the upper echelon parts of the league. Certainly are a much better team at home, Mallorca are, than they are on the road. But I like Mallorca getting that 1/4 goal. I also like the under 2.25 as I just feel like those matches, the way they play, they just don't really have they don't have goals in them. I think my biggest question is to see what the lineup looks like, though, to make sure that they're taking this one seriously, because I don't think they're technically safe, and that would be a good sign if you're looking to back Mallorca there. The last one on Saturday, the nightcap, Barcelona hosting Real Sociedad. Big battle at the top. Sociedad trying to claim their Champions League position, and they're in pretty safe position to do so, up 5 points on Villarreal and 7 on Real Betis, but still a ways to go, of course. Barcelona, 1/2 goal favorite, all the juice right now. Having just won the league, we saw Napoli not play very well after they clinched with nothing to play for. So we'll see if that also affects Barcelona. Makes me really like Sociedad getting that 1/2 goal, though it still feels like a fairly low number, to say the least. Over-under in this one is 2.5. It's juiced to the under. And that's probably because Barcelona haven't scored a ton of goals. But their defense has been pretty good all season. It's surprisingly, because you wouldn't expect them to do much defensively. I think Real Sociedad, I'm interested in that side. I feel like they have a lot more to play for, obviously, because Barcelona's done all they can do this year. They're not probably going to play the kids. There's so many players that are trying to get and keep rotation spots or keep a contract for next year instead of getting moved on or sold on or something like that. But I lean under 2.5. The Sociedad defense is pretty good. It's not been great against Barcelona in these matchups in the past, but I like road dog and under in that one. Moving to Sunday, Rayo Vallecano hosts Espanyol. Currently, Rayo a 1/4 goal favorite at home. Over-unders 2.25, juice to the over. This feels like one of those situations where Rayo are safe. Haven't been playing great. Alternating wins and losses their last 5, whereas Espanyol are fighting like heck to get out of the second relegation position right now, or second from bottom. It hasn't been going very well for them, unfortunately, but I'm not sure that I really expect a lot to change. And I feel like this number is based on kind of what they need rather than who they are. Espanyol have been awful, and they got embarrassed against Barcelona in their last matchup. Maybe they respond to that, but if they can't get up and play really well against their city rival at home, I don't think it's going to go very well for them here. And I don't really want to do anything with this matchup at all. Atletico Madrid then hosts Osasuna. Currently, Atleti a 1.25 goal favorite. Not a lot for them to play for, but they're certainly trying to finish above Real Madrid in the La Liga table. Over-unders 2.5, juice to the over, which is gigantic considering Osasuna does not score goals. They play defensively. They're going to go into Atleti and try to keep this as low scoring as possible. So I think that's my biggest interest, is the under 2.5, especially with a side that's not as interested right now in Atleti, because they're doing so well in the table, on third position, 2 points behind Real Madrid, but I don't think they're really seeking a 3-0 victory. I think they really want to win 1-0. That's the Simeone style. And Osasuna, I think they're going to try to find their way into Europe, but I don't think they really see this as a realistic 3 points. I think they want to go in there and defend and try to win win 1-0 or get a 1-1 draw or really leave goalless. I think that'd be a good result for Osasuna, and then focus on winning their home games to try to get up the table. But Valencia then hosts Real Madrid. Currently Valencia a quarter goal underdog at home, over unders 2 3/4, juiced heavily to the under. A little more juice on the Real Madrid side. I mean, very cheap to say the least, but Real Madrid coming off of bashing at Man City, really didn't go well from the start. They had some chances, but ultimately Real Madrid did not really perform very well on the road, especially after a pretty good home result in the first leg of Champions League. But that's what happens when you face the best team in the world, I guess. Valencia currently, I guess I lean to them as a home underdog, though their home ground, unfortunately, doesn't really seem to do too much for me. I just don't know, Mestalla, if it's loud supposedly, but they haven't really been that good there, maybe because they just haven't been good for a while. And I don't really like the Valencia defense enough to really want to advocate the under, but I feel like we might see a lot of rotation for Real Madrid because they really have nothing to play for now, with their one trophy, and that's it. Sevilla then hosts Real Betis in the Derby de Sevilla. I mean, huge matchup, and should be really fun to watch. Hopefully no one throws anything at players and postpones the game this time. But Sevilla coming off the Europa League, big battle with Juventus, where they played really well, I thought, and have honestly been great in that competition. I think it kind of spurred them out of relegation position to now where they're kind of fighting for Europe within 1 point of Girona. So they got a lot to play for. They're currently a quarter goal favorite at home. They're 8 points behind Real Betis in the table. So they're not going to catch them this season, most likely. But Real Betis have been playing really poorly. They're not really, I mean, their win against Rayo, another corner that they got and a goal from that should never have been given due to an offside, and then really hung on for dear life. Rayo Vallecano were running and basically causing them a ton of problems, but they got a 3-1 win. It's like one of the most misleading results out there. But I don't really want to back Betis. And I don't really feel like any sort of total interest either in this one. So I'll probably leave that one to the side. As for my best bet, I'm going to go with that Osasuna under 2.5. I think we might see 2 3/4 before this kicks off on Sunday, but ultimately I just feel like that's going to be a tight one. I think Atletico want to win that one 1-0, and Osasuna want to get out there giving up as few goals as possible, because I think they see that's the easiest way for them to get to I guess higher up the table. Now I'll move to Serie A in Italy. We'll start with a Friday match. We do have Sassuolo hosting Monza, a battle in the middle of the table where everyone seems to be safe. Currently Sassuolo a quarter goal favorite at home, a little bit more juice, over unders 2 3/4, juice to the under. I don't know really what to say about this Sassuolo side. I mean, I can tell you that both these teams are trying to outscore the other, but Monza have been so good. I've been backing them like blindly almost, not really, but just they've been covering every match they play, whether they fall behind or they take the lead, all sort of things. And it's both seem pretty safe. Sassuolo in 13th, Monza all the way up to 9th. Can't really catch Atalanta in 7th, but they're just trying to get their best finish. At least I have nothing to say negative about that. I like the Monza side getting a quarter of a goal, and would lean over 2 3/4 if anything. Moving to Saturday, Cremonese hosts Bologna. Currently Cremonese a pick'em. All the juice on Bologna on the road, over unders 2.5, juice the under. Cremonese are 6 points back with 3 matches to play of safety. They have to win here, but I don't really believe they will. Really were not at the races and tried to play defensively against Juventus when they needed a win last week as well. This is an easier take for them, but I just don't really believe in it. Bologna don't score a lot, but they're a much better side. I just feel like my strongest lean would be under 2.5 in this one. It's very juiced at the moment. But the problem is that since the inferior side at home is going to have to go for a victory, I feel like that doesn't feel great for an under. Atalanta then hosts Verona, another relegation battle. Verona's side, at least. Atalanta, a 1-goal favorite. Almost all the juice on Verona on the road, over is 2.5, juice the over. Verona is sitting at last relegation position. They need to climb up. They're tied on points, so they're just, I think, head-to-head is keeping them behind Spezia. But this is a tough battle for them. Atalanta are a good side, but haven't really been that great this season. I lean to Verona because they have so much to play for, but I also recognize that they're not a very good side, and I don't really want to play an under with an Atalanta side, which limits my interest in the underdog as well. AC Milan, a 2-goal favorite to Sampdoria, over under is 3, juice the under slightly. Milan coming off a pretty embarrassing performance in the Champions League, losing to their city rivals, and now they're trying to climb up the table to finish in a Champions League position, or else they won't get one this year. 4 points behind Lazio. That's going to be tough, but they're going to try their best, and they get an already relegated side who played pretty well, got a draw on a late equalizer, actually, that they conceded, or else they would have gotten a win, first win in a long time. Only had 3 on the season. I just don't want to deal with, they might play well, but I'm just not willing to pay for it. Moving to Sunday, Lecce hosts Spezia. Currently Lecce a quarter goal favorite. More of the juice over unders 2.5 juice, or 2.25 juice very heavily to the under. Spezia just barely safe by, I think, a head-to-head matchup with Verona. They're 2 points behind Lecce, so this is a huge matchup at the bottom. I think Lecce see this, if they get a point, they will still be hit 2 points ahead of Spezia. Doesn't really make them safe, but it certainly would make it a lot harder for Spezia to catch them. I lean to Spezia, though, on the road, because I just don't think that Lecce have been that great. The goals have been really hard for them to score. I think most of all, I like under 2.25 here, though, because I think these sides are going to be very nervous. Both know that a loss is a huge problem for them staying in the league. And I think it makes everyone a lot more conservative. You see a lot more tackles to stop attacks and things of that nature in the early one on Sunday morning. Torino then hosts Fiorentina. Currently, Torino a 0.5 goal favorite. All the juice on Fiorentina on the road. Over-unders 2.25, juiced to the under. Torino 0.5 goal favorite. I mean, that's a big saying something, but Fiorentina did have European play this week. They're both on 49 points, which is a little surprising. I expected Fiorentina to be higher in the table. I don't know that there's Europe really in sight for either of these clubs, at least from a Serie A position in the table finish. Does feel like Fiorentina must be rotating based on this number. So we'll see. I think I mean, based on value perspective, Fiorentina is a 0.5 goal underdog on the road at Torino seems gigantic, even with all the juice right now. Maybe falling to a quarter feels more apropos. But with that said, if Fiorentina is not playing their studs, I think under 2.25, it looks even better to me because they're, I think, more interchangeable defensively than you'd expect. Napoli then hosts Inter Milan. I think, as expected, Napoli a home favorite, but have already won the league, home team here, but not the favorite because Inter Milan, it's a pick 'em. They have more of the juice, though. Inter do, and Inter have been playing great and consolidated that with a big win over their city rival in Champions League, knocked them out going to the Champions League final, where they'll be an underdog, but being there is a big deal. Over unders 2.5, very juicy to the under. I'm interested in Inter in this one, but I think I want to see them as an underdog, so I don't know that I'll play, especially coming off only a few days between matches, and I don't really want to play under with these two sides because really who knows what they're looking for. Udinese then hosts Lazio on Sunday nightcap. Udinese a 0.5 goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over unders 2.5, juice heavily to the under. Udinese have not been very kind to me. When I back them, they play terribly like they did last week, even against a very tired Fiorentina side, if I remember correctly. Lazio, they're trying to hang on to their Champions League position. They got a lot of motivation here. They played really well defensively this year, and I feel like that's my strongest lean is the under in that Udinese Lazio match, under 2.5. Moving to Monday, we have Roma hosting Salernitana, coming off a very successful performance in Europa League and the Europa League final. That's gonna be their way to get in the Champions League unless they have some crazy comeback. Because they're 6 points behind Lazio, but currently Roma a 1 goal favorite to Salernitana with all the juice right now as well. Over unders 2.5, juice to the under. I lean to Salernitana and also to the under. I feel like Salernitana, they are moving. I mean, they're 8 points ahead with 3 matches left. They're nearly safe, but you could certainly make the argument they won't be by the time this match kicks off, especially if some of the relegation side collect points by this point. Maybe that's a good spot to be in, but also if they don't, then Salernitana might just give up and say they've already clinched their safety, which might impact this one quite a bit. So that's probably something I need to pay attention to say the least. But I lean to Salernitana +1. I lean to under 2.5. Boulaye has been awesome as a scorer, but I feel like Roma's going to be rotating quite a bit for this one because I don't think they have a lot on the line because I know that they have Champions League if they just win that Europa League final. Last but not least, Empoli hosting Juventus. Currently, Empoli a 3/4 goal underdog at home. A little bit more juice on Juventus on the road. Over unders 2.5, juice to the under. Juve coming off a really tough battle at Sevilla. Some travel from Spain to Italy, certainly. Empoli with really poor performance on Monday last week against relegated side Sampdoria. Got an equalizer late and are safe. Literally, they're 9 points ahead of the relegation position, so I think they're good to go. Not sure what to expect from this one. Juve currently sitting second, but they're 8 points ahead of dropping out of the Champions League position, so they're in great shape. I don't know really what to say this one. Juve might be rotating quite a bit, so I'll put Empoli +3/4 goal on my list. Though I'll also like under 2.5. I feel like there's a good chance that Juve are not playing their best players here, to say the least. I think for my best bet in this one, I'm going to go with the Fiorentina under 2.25. I just feel like there's big rotation in that one, and I wouldn't expect a lot of goals from a Torino-Fiorentina matchup anyway. Now I'll move to the German Bundesliga. We do have a Friday matchup this week. And this is, I mean, we're coming down right towards the end here. And I mean, it's going to be awesome. But unfortunately, this side I follow the closest is the Sport Club Freiburg, and they've really had a lot of troubles lately, from crashing out of the Pokal, and then also now they've lost a grip on the Champions League position that they've had for so long now that Leipzig have climbed over them. They play on Friday. They host Wolfsburg, who are in the 6th position right now, which is a European place, and they're trying to hold off Leverkusen, 3 points ahead of Eintracht Frankfurt at the moment. Leverkusen, of course, coming off Europa League midweek. Wolfsburg, a quarter goal underdog on the road, and they're going to have a tough time going to a really tough place to play, but they're better, I think, in better form, of course, because Freiburg have lost their last 2, plus the Pokal stuff, whereas Wolfsburg have won 3 of their last 4 and are unbeaten in 4 of their last 5. I feel like this is a good spot for Freiburg to bounce back, but their offense has been really struggling. Their defense is really what has made them so good this year, has been kind of the worst part of the team lately. And even the goalkeeper, Mark Flecken, has been struggling lately too. This one, over-under is 3, though, which is pretty tall task for these two sides, which I think are both built on defending. That's probably my biggest interest in this one right now, though I do like the Wolfsburg side getting a quarter as well. Moving to Saturday, we have Hertha Berlin hosting Bochum. Big battle at the bottom of the table. First matchup on the list. Hertha, quarter goal favorite at home. So why are they favored to anybody at this point? I'm not sure. Over unders 2 3/4. Juice the over. Another question to me. I mean, 2 teams that don't really have a lot of offense. Bochum sitting 1 point above the relegation playoff position off their big win last weekend. Hertha are bottom of the table on 25 points. I guess they could climb. I mean, they got 2 matches left. They went out. They could certainly jump above Schalke, but if Schalke get a win, they can't touch them. If Stuttgart and 17th get a win, they can't touch them. So that's not a great position to be. I expect Hertha to be playing very aggressively and coming out and try to score goals. Unfortunately, that's going to put their defense in a big problem. So I do feel like that makes me interested in Bochum in a counterattacking type of situation. Their defense has been pretty problematic on the road, but I think they can handle this type of setup. I also lean to under 2 3/4, but it's really hard for me to want to play Hertha Berlin unders because they lose in historic, embarrassing fashion. And I don't really want to deal with that, I'll admit. Schalke 04 then hosts Eintracht Frankfurt. It's currently Schalke, a quarter goal favorite at home. Quarter goal underdog at home. A little more of the juice. Over unders 2 3/4. Very juice the over, which is surprising in a Schalke matchup, I got to say. But they're in the relegation position right now, the playoff position, so they could save themselves. If the season ended today, they'd be playing the 3rd place team in the Schweizer Liga, the Bundesliga 2. But Eintracht Frankfurt had a really good performance last weekend after really just limping along for what felt like months. And will Frankfurt follow that up on the road again with a lot of their players moving on, their manager not returning? I mean, it's not a great situation there. And I feel like I wish I had understood that a little bit better, because I've been backing them a little bit more than I wish, because they were such a good moneymaker for a long time last year, certainly in the run to the Europa League final and winning it. But they've not had the same type of year. I'm interested in Schalke getting a quarter of a goal at home. I got to say, I think they're going to do a really good job also to keep this match as really low scoring as possible. So when this hits 3, I think that's a buy point for under there as well. Hoffenheim then has Union Berlin, calling Hoffenheim a pick'em with all the juice right now. It's a little bit surprising considering Union in a Champions League position right now. Trying to hold on to it though, and on the road. But over under is 2.5, juice the under. Hoffenheim, they're not necessarily safe yet, only 2 points ahead of the relegation playoff position. They've been playing better lately, but ultimately still only have 1 win in their last 5, so it's not like that great. I'm very interested. Certainly feels like Union's underpriced, which they are frequently, so I'm not surprised by that. Waiting to see if they climb to quarter goal underdog. I think I will definitely play that. I like under 2.5 because Union are going to go on the road and they're going to play the same way they always do. They're going to restrict the Hoffenheim offense. They're going to try to get you on the counterattack. And I don't necessarily think that Hoffenheim have the keys to unlock that defense. Werder Bremen then hosts Köln. Currently Werder pick them at home. A little more juice right now. Over unders 2 3/4. Juice the over. Köln sitting in 10th. Werder Bremen sitting 12th. Werder Bremen have been awful. Lost 4 of their last 5, but they are 5 points ahead of the relegation playoff position, so they're nearly safe. I'd be looking to be against them if I could. Certainly at home, they'll play a little bit better, but I don't really trust them. I don't trust them to score either. And this one looks like it's headed towards 3 goals. And certainly there've been a ton of goals in the Bundesliga lately, but I'm almost being stubborn and not willing to move off my idea that these offenses don't really deserve the totals being as high as they are. Especially if one hits 3, that might be a buy point for me. It's 2 3/4 right now though, so not there yet. Bayern Munich then hosts RB Leipzig in a big battle at the top of the table. The top spiel on Saturday, the big one Saturday night. Bayern Munich a 1 1/4 goal favorite, a little more juice on Leipzig on the road, over just 3.5 juice to the under. Bayern are 1 point ahead in the title race, and they can put some pressure on Dortmund with a win here. Leipzig are sitting in 3rd position now, but are still they're 4 points ahead in the Champions League playoff situation or standing situation. They have 2 matches left, so pretty dominant. If they can get a win here, of course, that'd be shocking the world and would really throw the title race upside down. But I do think that they can play Bayern Munich tight. Bayern have been crushing teams lately, but it's really been they won 3 of their last 4, but and unfortunately that loss was after they took a lead and lost to Mainz, who are not exactly